Good evening and welcome to the November 18th meeting of the governing body. I call this meeting to order. If you will give your attention to Councilwoman Hiller, who will provide the invocation, stand as you are able, and then remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you, Mayor. It's a great pleasure for me to introduce to you Terry Kimes. Many of you may know him from his past life as 40 years as a partner or as an accountant and then a partner at my CPA. Today, Terry is the chaplain at the Shawnee County Jail. And there he does Bible studies, one-on-one counsels, baptisms, support, kind of whatever anybody needs. He also is on the board of TUMI, which is the Topeka Urban Ministry Institute, which is based out of Central Topeka and Central Park neighborhood in particular. That group is involved in feeding the homeless that are able to get to their houses. They have 2 chaplain houses near Central Park Community Center and Central Park Christian. They do outreach, particularly in Central Park. Every Sunday night, feed between 80 and 100 homeless people that are able to get to their meals. They've also hired a person who's managing one of the houses as a what they call a neighborhood navigator. And she helps people find food, get IDs, addresses, and so on. And with that, I ask Terry to share some words with us this evening to start our meeting.
Thank you, Karen. Let us pray. Our most gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for this beautiful day. We thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight, and we ask you bless all those who are in attendance. We thank you for this governing body as they work together to serve our community. We thank you for the citizens that have come out tonight to be involved in our democracy. We thank you for organizations like the Topeka Urban Ministry Institute that are part of this community that reach out to the least and are feeding 80 to 100 homeless people every Sunday night in the Central Park community, all done by private contributions from our citizens. Tonight, as this council meets together to make important decisions that affect Topeka, we ask that you give them the grace to work together with unity and give each member the discernment to voice what their personal beliefs are on each issue. We are thankful for these leaders for the time they spend in serving. We also ask for your protection on all those first responders that serve this city. And Lord, most of all, we thank you for how much you love us all. We ask all these things in the name of our precious Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you all. Madam Clerk, will you call the roll, please?
Mayor Padilla.
Here.
Council members Hiller.
Here.
Valdivia Acala. Ortiz.
Here.
Banks.
Here.
Kell.
Here.
Miller.
Here.
Dobler.
Here.
Duncan.
Here.
And Hofer.
Here.
Go again. We have 9 present.
Okay, thank you. We'll move on to agenda item 2, appointments. Madam Clerk.
A is a board appointment recommending the reappointment of Samuel Sutton to the Metropolitan Topeka Airport Authority Board for a term ending November 30, 2028. B is a board appointment recommending the reappointment of Carly Feldhausen to the Shawnee County Community Corrections Advisory Board for a term ending November 30, 2027. C is a board appointment recommending the reappointment of Keith Warda to the Gage Park Improvement Authority to fill a term ending December 13, 2028. D is a board appointment recommending the appointment of Samantha Rogovitz to the Topeka Sustainability Advisory Board for a term ending November 18, 2027. E is a board appointment recommending the reappointment of Lori Niehaus to the Topeka Board of Zoning Appeals to fill a term ending December 31, 2028. And F is a board appointment recommending the appointment of Travis Williams to the Topeka Housing Authority Advisory Board to fill an unexpired term ending on December 31, 2027.
Thank you. You've heard the appointments as read by the clerk. Is there a motion from the board to approve? Motion to approve by Deputy Mayor Kell and second by Councilwoman Hofer. You want to do the roll call, or we can just still do electronic?
Electronic, yep.
Okay, we're ready to vote then.
Yep. You do not vote, Mayor. Councilmember Ortiz?
Yes.
Okay, we have 8 yes, the motion carries.
Okay, thank you. I know that there are some of the appointees in the audience this evening, so if you're here, would you please stand so we can recognize your appointment, and thank you for your continued service for the city. Thank you. Okay, Madam Clerk, presentations.
Presentation is Changing Our Culture of Property Maintenance Initiative Progress Report.
Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the governing body. John Chardine, Division Director of PMU, Nicole Stovall, PMU COCPM, we changed our culture of property maintenance administrator, and Councilmember Hiller, Chair of the Public Health and Safety Committee, and lead of the Change Our Culture of Property Maintenance, will lead us through this item.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor and City Manager. I'll pick it up from here. Just a quick refresher, the council voted to adopt a very broad interdepartmental and intercommunity initiative called Changing Our Culture of Property Maintenance back in 2021. The aspirational goal of that initiative was to improve the quality of structures and premises in Topeka, Kansas, so that structures and premises violations are the exception rather than the rule. Our number of substandard properties is never over 500. Owners are motivated to take care of properties before city departments are even called. That was the aspirational goal. There were 4 subcategories and lots of work detail, which we are not going to go through tonight. But we did want to accept the invitation to share the progress that we've made on a number of these elements. I want to thank then the city manager and the assistant city manager for all of the planning time for this agenda. Thank the staff, particularly John and Nicole as leads, but we have a whole network of staff amongst not only property maintenance, but the housing department, the public works department, fire department, planning, and TSG unit. There really is a lot of interdepartmental work going on in this initiative, and everybody counts. And then, of course, the community as well that gave us input when we started the program and is constant in terms of raising issues, helping out, and feedback. With that, I will cover what's covered in the PowerPoint that Nicole put together. What that will do also is cover some of the issues, some backstory on some of the issues that were raised last week and some of the discussions about possible gaps in our system. We've really been working on that, and you had not had this report, so we'll see what you think there. I will do the presentation then from the slides. Dan, we're ready for those. First, a renter safety net. We've created a referral system within the Housing Services Division, which is a partner, of course, as the primary contact with referrals to their entire list of in-house programs and externally to entities like Housing and Credit Counseling, Inc., which has been around for ages for both tenant landlord and home buyer counseling, for education and support if people have questions, learning to do, or issues. Within the actual enforcement procedures, a prioritization standard has been created by John and worked on with his crew to prioritize life and safety violations with, though often there's just a 60-day notice, the code is set up to suggest that for many things, but we've got a 24 to 72-hour protocol when there is an immediate filing option with municipal court if there is a real life safety issue that is not being addressed. Housing services, through this through this initiative, it was decided that a contract at least for a couple of years to see how much it could help with some sort of legal services for renters would be helpful. That contract is now 2 years old with Kansas Legal Services. So far, over 120 tenant households have been served, primarily for consultations about evictions and housing quality standards. The initial initiative envisioned a community navigator position, and that position was started at the beginning of the initiative. If you recall, the homeless issues kind of blew up, and that person got pulled off to work on a lot of those issues. And ultimately, and we'll talk about this a little bit more, John and his crew decided that they had so upped their game in terms of providing education and support when they made one-on-one contact with residents and owners that perhaps that position was not needed, and it was dropped a couple of years ago. The conclusion since that time was that it really is needed, and in August of 2025, that position, now called a community navigator, has been filled. Gentleman's name is Leo Hope. He is housed at the Office of Inclusive Communities, formerly known as Community, and sometimes still known as Community Engagement, so that he is available for not only code cases, but other issues where residents need some connection with supporter services. So again, having a renter safety net was very important to advancing code compliance with rental housing. Having a homeowner safety net was equally important. If you've got low and moderate income homeowners, you can give them 60 days notice to fix their house, but if they need to paint it or they need to fix their whole porch, that may not be something they have the skills or the money to do right away. And so the initiative looked at how can we help folks. In year one, mowing and weeds and grasses were a top priority initiative for education in the community, and a mowing referral program was established at that time. That has continued both on the website or if people call for assistance, as well as in our handout materials that you'll hear a little bit more about. The Housing Division was able to secure a $750,000 grant from the Federal Home Loan Bank back in 2018. Those were 3-year grants, and they've received a second one. That provides a substantial amount of money either for major rehabs or for specific things that homeowners need. In the 2019 to 2023 program, for instance, 37 households were assisted. So you can see the cost per household average was pretty high to do that. If many of you were on the council when a couple of years ago, the council allocated another $200,000 for rehab to complement that money, in that the Federal Home Loan Bank sets their own district of where their money can be spent and therefore where it's not available as well. And so the staff had observed that we needed to fill in some gaps for that support. That spending of that money is underway. The community navigator position we mentioned, that individual is available to homeowners as well. Though we do have rehab staff within our housing services division, and so and the EAS and other programs that our housing services people do. So if somebody's really short on money, for instance, and what they need is some other resources to help with food and medical that can loosen up money for other living costs, then we have staff as well as community network that can help with that. In terms of cross-department collaboration, a really big partnership that was envisioned in year 2 and really started last year was a partnership between fire and the property maintenance division. Fire code inspectors already were on a rotation to go out regularly, again, multifamily housing and some discovery that some of them had become quite substandard was a big issue for us and a big discovery for us. Fire was already underway with regular inspections of multifamily units that had interior access to the front doors to units. The agreement between the two departments was to expand that to include all multifamily units, and ultimately settled at 8 units or more, whether they have exterior personal entrance and egress or whether they have a common space. The routine that was agreed on is once every 3 years for those that have exterior exit and entrances, and once a year for those that have interior, which is part of the fire code routine that they already had, as well as any that had exhibited problems. This year, the way they do that is to do them in batches. And so based on the other targeted inspections that they do, the agreement was they would do those in calendar quarters 3 and 4. In other words, the July to September quarter and the October to December quarter. So they are midway through their first full 6-month season on that. But with that, a lot of people have been concerned about whether we were making affirmative contact to check out multifamily rentals. When they do that, they meet people on site, and they also have materials that, again, you'll see in a few minutes, that they can slide under the door so that everybody is aware that code compliance is available to them, and also that assistance from the city and others to protect from retaliatory eviction is available. It's a start. You still have to build trust, but that outreach initiative has been tested and is now underway. Just so you know, and we'll look at Nicole here, give her some kudos. Property maintenance, along with almost every other city department, is in the process of transferring all of the software databases, in our case from MyGov, to an integrated citywide system provided by Tyler Technologies. That means that they've been looking at every single data piece, how it links to others, how it links to notices, how it links to almost anything in terms of making that change. That has been an incredible time taker this year, and you'll hear as we move along that one of the things that they're looking at is to formalize that transfer in the first quarter of next year. So we're going to put the fire under getting the property maintenance code updates through so that they're entering only the latest version once, not having to do things twice. We also, in terms of debating whether we needed to have some sort of registry of rental units and so on, realized we backed up and said, why? Why do we need that? Well, it's so that we can figure out so that people can be safe in that property, so we know whether it's been occupied or vacant, so that we know who knows who about that property, who do you get in touch with. So an agreement, an interdepartmental agreement was worked out between police, fire, and property management to share. Naturally, that's secured at a certain level for who has the access, but to be able to share their common databases based on property address, so that if something happens at property X, all 3 departments can check and see if there's been a code complaint, if there's been a police complaint, maybe trespassers or a crime or something like that, or there's been a fire on that property recently, and who the contacted parties were, to optimize our abilities to connect immediately with key people and address issues. So that's been pretty exciting. Also has taken some time and included the TSG department over at IT to get that done. So under education, okay, we're doing okay. Recently, the city's website has been updated, and so that has included updating the Changing Our Culture of Property Maintenance website. As before, however, if you get on that website and just type that in on the city's, let's see, where is it though, Nicole? You go in right now under...
I believe it is going to be how do I, and then it's going to be under programs and services.
Okay.
And then once that gives you that overview, it's in the kind of middle right-hand section, and it'll say changing our culture of property maintenance.
Okay. And with that, there are links in there to the original initiative document, the planning and public input documents when we got started, updates, news releases, all kinds of things about the initiative if anybody ever wants to check. There is a partnership with our communications department as well. So far in 2025, there have been 19 posts. The goal was to do 2 a month that highlighted various educational or action aspects of what the property maintenance unit was doing. Somehow the yard of the month was the big winner with over 14,000 views when that was posted. Again, you think of something like Yard of the Month, that came out of the community engagement and communications folks as an idea of how to get our message out in kind of a fun way that could engage the entire community in what was going on. And it's been fun to see that, and hopefully you all have caught those. John and his team decided that Coffee with Code would be a way to affirmatively get information out. They were probably copying off you, Spencer, with your get-togethers at Fairlawn, but anyway. With the idea that the events would allow citizens to voice concerns, but also allow for education and allow for listening to anything that we still need to work on. I think there were 10 or 20 people at the last. We've now done 3 of the 3 events that we had. We're looking forward to the input that they've picked up from that toward our final tweaking of the updates to the property maintenance code. But that outreach, which as I understand it included both landlords and tenants, allowed for good and homeowners, of course, and neighbors, as usual, allowed for some good contacts in the community. There's also been affirmative tenant landlord training. Housing and Credit Counseling Inc. is a partner, and they do 2 a year anyway, and we were able to promote and encourage people to attend those, again, both for landlords and tenants. Recently, Kansas Legal Services did one. They partnered with the library to get the word out. Apparently had about 23 people there, again, talking about things like tenants' rights, eviction process, how small claims court works. We've realized that that's an area that we could build some education in, and how to find resources and support. All of the materials that we had when we started the initiative at Property Maintenance have been refreshed, updated, and added to. They are available in the main office at the Holiday Building. Each inspector, and I think you'll get a photo. Dan, you want to roll to the next one? Yeah. The inspectors each have a tote on their trucks, and part of their training is to train the neighbors or the residents at the property or whoever it is about not only the responsibilities under the code, but also what resources are available. We will continue to have the updated property maintenance code available in its entirety, whether it's the core code or the customization that we either have to do as a city for things like fines and fees, or that we've chosen to do, so that it's easy to read and available to anyone. And with that, we're going to take a break on telling stories and let John talk about the various publications that we have.
Sure. So about 2 years ago, after looking at the numbers, I realized that we had approximately 4,000 to 5,000 initial inspections a year. So that with 8 inspectors, that tells me that's not a whole lot of time that we're spending with each inspection, right? So we had to come up with a way to get the information to the folks with the least amount of time. And we sat down with staff, and we came up with these pamphlets. Nicole really secured this up for me, but we have pamphlets that talk about vegetation, property maintenance unit in general, your rights as an occupant, as a renter, your rights as a landlord. And then I went to each division, and I asked them, if you had to get some information out, and you had about 5 minutes, what would you like people to know? So each division provided a little pamphlet, and so now when we go on these community events, we have all this available, right? And my inspectors, when they spend time with these folks, if they're running some type of issue and they need to spend some time with them to talk over their plans on making the repairs, what resources are available, we have all this available, and we can give it to them. All my inspectors carry this with their vehicles all the time. So,
Do you want to just kind of flash through what everybody's
yeah.
got a set?
So,
But people at home want to see them too, so.
yeah, they're all back there on the table. Nicole did a great job putting the information together. We might even have more back there on the table, but we got more information we know what to do with, to tell you the truth. And it's not the easiest thing keeping it up because the inspectors use it a lot. This is not one of those one time and you're done. No, they're becoming professionals at this. So they know, they recognize the houses that are suffering and they'll spend more and more time with the occupants or the owners and how to bring it up to code.
I was hoping you'd just at least rattle through the titles so that the people who are watching.
Well, you got the vegetation, what you need to know, what's allowed in the city of Topeka, what's prohibited. Then we have a general property maintenance one, which talks about our property maintenance unit, the codes that we enforce, how we enforce it. And then we talk a little about municipal code, your rights as an occupant, as a renter, and as a landlord. And there's links in there to HCCI and the eviction defense, Topeka Development Services. So this was an interesting one. I say that because this is my weakest one. When you talk to the development services, there are permits that are supposedly required to be pulled for just about everything. And once we start getting into the inspections, we're starting to find out that either the folks were unaware of it or they ignored it. So now we're working very closely with development services to make sure that people are pulling the permits that they're supposed to. Another one that we use is 1-800-BOARD-UP for those folks that experience natural disasters. This is a big helpful one. They're from Lawrence. And then finally we talk about more of the municipal code and equity, excel shelters, and resources. We also use these for, a lot of folks think that we just go around and we find something and we cite it, but we have several handouts that talk about warnings. We notice that you're in violation, this is how to fix it. And we put these on vehicles and houses and doors. We use door hangers a lot. So we try to get compliance with a minimal amount of government intervention. Does that make sense?
Well, I'm going to add to it, one of the things we realized early on, and this is just a for instance, in mowing issues, was that a lot of people didn't have a lawnmower. They weren't sure how to maintain it. They weren't sure, how to set the blade, how to sharpen the blade, and so on. So early on in this initiative, if you again go to the website, I think it's still on the new webpage, there are links so that you could look for informative videos about how to do some of the things that you need to do to take care of your property. Because we'll put your name on there and you can just go show them how to mow a yard, right, David? And here's another one about emergencies, repair programs, and so on, things that we have and that others have as well. So I just think they've done a really great job. Again, they have those. If anybody who's here tonight wants to look at them, there's a table full of them out back. The guys and gals have them in their totes on the truck so that if people need anything, they're available to let them know. And then they take them out and about whenever you all are asked to have a table or be a speaker or things like coffee with code. So any of us can call on them if we wanted a resource package for an event or a neighborhood as well. Okay, moving on with just more of the narrative. Standards, of course, were important. As you all, most of you were on the council then, we added vegetation, overgrown vegetation other than just grasses and weeds. Back in year 2, the idea was that years 3 and 4, which are last year and this year, were going to be education only for the most part, and we would go into full enforcement in year 5. And John mentioned he's really developed kind of what back in the day we might have called the standard rap that the inspectors talk about. And so they've been learning by beginning that voluntary program and working with people to get things, fences, houses, alleys, tree lines,
Yep.
abated. So it's a big deal. You may recall, we learned in year 2, much to our surprise actually, that pest control somehow had been dropped from that code when it was passed. And so we got that passed again, having discovered, particularly in some multifamily housing situations, that it was a super problem, and for some reason we didn't have it. Since then, that's gone well. It's been steady. So we're pleased to see that development. Also, we got asked to include dangerous trees in a separate ordinance about in 2024, trees in mobile home parks. That has been worked on. It's a pretty tough one to administer, actually, but there have been 2 active cases, one of which is still active, the other closed with voluntary compliance by an owner. We have been reviewing an updated proposal for to keep the International Property Maintenance Code that we adopted for the first time in 2015, but take the updated 2024 version with our customizing. We've been looking at that throughout the year of 2025. If you all remember, we threw it out to you all for comment early. I don't know that we got any from council members at large. We are getting toward the end of the line on that. We've been addressing it periodically first on standards and then fines and fees in public health and safety. But we really are ready for you to come forward with any thoughts or to encourage your constituents that may have thoughts. Certainly last week generated a lot of letters and comments in advance, as well as at last week's meeting. We have collected all of those, and we'll make sure that we're making reference to both any concerns that were raised to see if really they were or weren't, whether we're addressing or not addressing the issues that were raised. But also there were ideas shared that we may want to put on a checklist for consideration. So be aware of that. Underneath that code, there are standard operating procedures that take just about as many pages as the code pages themselves. I think everyone is aware of those. John has been in the process of updating all of those. One of the challenges but successes with property maintenance code compliance is the fact that you lay out some parameters in the code, but then you coach you do give discretion to in terms of time or maybe some specifics to both your code inspectors as well as the supervision in the department, so that as much as possible voluntary compliance can happen, and it can happen soon. And so those standard operating procedures, for instance, give a little more detail about those, like giving 24 to 72 hours notice on a life safety emergency. So things like that, you are welcome to review those as well. John's got housing and sanitation in at least final draft form, and is working on the others that will supplement the code. Policies and procedures, as kind of separate from the code itself, what we realized is how it goes from inspector to supervisor to administrative hearing to court, and what gets prosecuted and what doesn't, and what actually gets off the hook with a voluntary conviction, with a voluntary compliance. And we kind of worked on some stuff for repeat offenders, but you had to be convicted to be an offender. So nobody had been really charged with the repeat offender kind of status that we had built in. So we've learned a lot in watching how that goes. In year 1, though, we realized that LLCs were a really big problem, and that they were simply not answering the code complaints themselves or showing up in court and just were going, oh, well, we didn't get the notice. And so the city attorney's office took the lead to do an ordinance that this council passed in year 1, which would have been 2022, to tighten up that need to respond, the responsibility being on the LLCs themselves to respond. And that has been very successful. Staff and the courts report that we are getting responses and getting solutions, getting resolutions exponentially better than we were at first. We also updated, you may recall, the city's retaliatory eviction ordinance in year 1, or amended in year 1 to take action shortly after that. What that said was it restated our city's policy that a retaliatory eviction or a retaliatory rent raise or a diminution in services, in other words, taking back some freedoms or cutting back on doing maintenance, was not okay if somebody had made a legitimate complaint to the landlord or to a government agency charged with health and safety kinds of things. The deal is you had to be a tenant in good standing for the city to actually sue the landlord on your behalf. And because these cases take a long time, there were only 13 cases filed under that, and only one of them was in good enough standing for the city to proceed. City staff has felt that we still would retain that because it is a strong message that we back up with the enforcement and court procedures. So if anybody has thoughts about that otherwise, that's where we are, though, with it. It is one of the reasons, however, that we've talked about doing a little more education on the tenant's part with small claims court. If they've actually suffered some damages or losses, they could perhaps use a little more in assistance than they've been getting on how to recover. We went back to a procedure that had been in place for a long time, once again regarding occupied rentals, where 30 days notice for an occupied rental is generally the most time that's given to do repairs, because that ties in with retaliatory protections as well as notice requirements in the Kansas law. We also, as you know, across the table with the council and departments, established a land bank 2 years ago now that can acquire vacant, abandoned, or foreclosed property with developers and begin be able to get those properties back in use. There are currently nine lots available for purchase in that bank. And that board has worked really hard, as we understand it, to just study what the options are and so on. We can do everything we want to do with vacant lots, but we as a council and community need to work on the strategies for how to revitalize those lots and neighborhoods and empty houses. We are currently considering, and you heard that mentioned last week, adding language that would allow for an enhanced penalty for non-owner occupied properties that are repeat offenders. That would include vacant lots, again, vacant structures where owners are not keeping them boarded or keeping them mowed or otherwise keeping them secure, as well as occupied rentals. Our initiative had other redevelopment issues, challenges for us that we're still working on, things like small developer roundtables, working with Shawnee County on the tax sales, and again, working with the land bank and others for simple incentives for redevelopment. In terms of data, a lot of people have been interested in the data. There is a 2021 to 2024 data aggregate report that is available through the department and through the website. And then we went ahead and attached the third quarter, so all 3 quarters of 2025 data report as far as it's gone for this year, actually to this agenda item on the, for people's convenience. If somebody wants to look at that data, it's attached to the agenda item today for this presentation. Also is attached to the Public Health and Safety Committee agenda for tomorrow. All sorts of, we have used, the staff has used all sorts of departmental connections to get data. An example would be that when we're looking for vacant properties to stop by and inspect, being able to work with the water department on which properties have not had water service was a really great way to get started. That's not the only one. Trying to think if they're down here. Yeah, the Shawnee County Appraiser's website is fabulous to use. We had someone comment the other day that they were concerned that we didn't have any numbers at all about how many rental properties versus how many home-owned properties we had. And that, of course, is done every 10 years officially in the census, as well as the census updates that are done by the American Community Survey that our planning department has at any time. We also can use the appraiser's website, which allows you to find out ownership information, contact information, whether it's individuals or corporations. And further, checked with the planning staff about how they tell whether it's homeowners or rentals. And because that website includes the property address and also includes the address of where tax statements are sent, they analyze that, just as an example, by looking at that if those addresses are different, it is probably and the owner is not the occupant, and so can go from there in terms of, there had been people last week that were interested in citywide information, neighborhood information, as well as even block information, and so we do have the resources to get that always or as needed. Also, with the data that we've had in MyGov, and then we'll have in Tyler as well, it is possible to run sorts, which Nicole has done quite a bit of, to figure out who the top offenders are. You know, and you can cross-check pretty easily to figure out if there are LLCs that have different names but have the same principles in them, so that we can look at patterns and do the best that we can to address where there are problems and leave other people alone. The idea, again, with this whole initiative is to not need to have any interaction with folks at all, to have it clear what the standards are and encourage people to work toward them. Last but not least, in terms of searching for data, whereas there had been discussions of needing registries for various reasons over time, right now, most any of us can find anybody in about a second by Googling their name and finding their address, their phone numbers, and their family members, or else who's lived with them, and begin to network to find owners and properties. So staff has really worked on all those things in these years, and we wanted to pull it all together to at least give you a bit of an update. If people, again, and then we'll open it up if there are questions or comments, but Public Health and Safety is meeting tomorrow. If we're going to be working on the International Property Maintenance Code, so with these reports tonight, we are not going to do a bunch of reports tomorrow. We're going to jump right into working on getting that Property Maintenance Code ready to go. Comments from any of the folks who turned in thoughts or questions last week, or that have contacted any of you, are welcome at that meeting, or are welcome to send comments and questions. If in fact, because this is, we've now kind of recently learned that that people want that done by the end of the year if we can, if there is enough interest in having a special public/town hall type meeting just on property maintenance and related issues, we are willing to do that. Probably need to be in the first 2 weeks of December. So if, as you're thinking of who you know or what interests are out there, have them just get hold of, let me see, I didn't really figure out who. We'll make it the council staff. have people reach out to Council Assist. They are putting together a list, a composite of all the comments that we've gotten already. So if people would send Council Assist at topeka.org, we're happy to respond if there are outlying comments that we haven't picked up already. I think that's about it. Thank you, everyone. I think everyone in this whole council and probably everybody in this room has worked on code compliance in some way. We're doing the best we can to have the best system we can. And with that, thank you for taking the report. And if there are questions or comments, that Nicole is our, she's been tied up with Tyler a lot, but she is our Changing Our Culture Property Maintenance Initiative Manager. John is the head of the department. Avery Moore over there has been assigned as Assistant City Manager over our initiative, so he's available to all of us as well.
Thank you, Councilwoman. John, do you have anything to add? Or?
I do not. This was it's a work in progress. We've been working extremely hard on it for 4 years. I expect it's going to go longer than 5. I think we've done great things. We've provided greater service to the folks. We're much more in touch with these folks than we ever have in the past. We collaborate with more departments and divisions than we ever have in the past. And we got leadership in the right places. So for that, I am thankful, city manager, assistant city managers, council, for providing us all the tools we need.
Thank you, John. Nicole? Okay, thank you. All right, any questions from the body? Seeing none. Again, thank you, Councilwoman. Thank you, John. Nicole? We'll move on now to the consent agenda. Madam Clerk?
A is approval of a settlement in the amount of $49,000 to resolve lawsuit with Brentley Dorsey arising out of or relating in any way from employment with the city on a full and final basis. B are minutes of the regular meeting of November 12, 2025, and there are no applications.
Okay, for the brief consent agenda, is there a motion from the body to approve? Motion to approve by Councilman Dobler, second by Councilman Duncan. We're ready to vote.
Sorry, Councilmember Ortiz?
Yes.
All right, we have 9 yes, the motion carries.
Move on to action items. Madam Clerk?
A is an ordinance introduced by City Manager Dr. Robert Perez, amending the district map referred to and made a part of the zoning ordinances by Section 1850-050 of the Topeka Municipal Code in order to rezone properties located at 3825 Southwest 29th Street and 3835 Southwest 29th Street from PUD Planned Unit Development C4 Commercial Uses and M1 Two-Family Dwelling District all to PUD Planned Unit Development C2 Commercial Uses.
Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the governing body. Dan Warner, Planning Division Director, will lead us through this item.
Thank you, City Manager. Good evening, Mayor and governing body. So first of 4 cases from the Planning Commission tonight. So to explain this one a little bit, so the current PUD that's approved for this property allows a convenience store with gas pumps on a majority of the property. What the issue here is with this zoning change is that there's a driveway that goes out to Atwood to the east, and that's on M1 zoned property. So the issue is, since they're redeveloping the property, you cannot access more intensely zoned property from lesser and intensely zoned property. So the issue here with this rezoning is really to get that M1 property with that driveway to be part of this C2 property that will allow that already allows the convenience store. So the existing uses on the site have been banks, with drive-through and parking and circulation. There was a traffic study submitted by the applicant with this rezoning application. While the traffic study still needs final approval, all access has been approved. So there will be a driveway on 29th Street, a full driveway. And then on Gage, there will be right in, right out. And they will be required to extend the median south from where it currently is on Gage. The applicant will also be required to dedicate additional right-of-way for a future eastbound turn lane along Southwest Gage Boulevard. The applicant held a well-attended neighborhood information meeting. Attendees mentioned traffic, noise, and crime as issues. A few folks also attended the Planning Commission meeting and voiced some of those similar concerns. Planning Commission considered this item and voted 5-2 to recommend approval at their October meeting. Staff recommends approval as well. Be happy to try to answer any questions.
You have any questions for Dan? Deputy Mayor.
Was there very much pushback from the applicant on the 29th access points instead of just keeping it as is with Atwood and Gage? Because you look at it, a lot of other cities, they have side road access more than they have main road access, especially like Kansas City on the applicant's style of property here.
So the applicant wished to keep that driveway onto Atwood. If not, if they didn't want to use it, we potentially wouldn't have had to go through this rezoning action.
What I'm getting at is, not having the 29th access, but only having Atwood and Gage as the access points?
I'm sorry, Councilman. No, they absolutely want the access on 29th Street, full access, full driveway.
All right, thank you.
Other questions for Dan? Okay, before we move to a motion and vote, this requires the revelation of any ex parte communications on this issue. So I'm obliged to read this. Prior to proceeding with the vote, each member of the governing body who is engaged in ex parte communication with any individual, either in favor of or against the matter being considered, must state that the communication occurred and indicate that even in light of having engaged in the communication, they were able to fairly, objectively, and impartially consider the measure based upon the evidence provided on the record. The record includes the Planning Commission minutes, the staff report and its attachments, the public comments made during the Planning Commission hearing, and similar relevant information related to the matter. So now I ask the body to reveal if there are any ex parte communications to bring forth.
Mr. Mayor.
Deputy Mayor?
I've had a couple emails and a couple people approach me and talk to me about it, and I believe I can make an impartial decision.
Okay. Any others? Okay. Not seeing any or hearing any. Our voting requirements are to make a motion to approve the Planning Commission's recommendation, reject or amend the Planning Commission's recommendation, or remand back to the Planning Commission by the governing body. So I see a motion to approve by the Deputy Mayor, second by Councilman Dobler. No further discussion. We're ready to vote.
Councilmember Ortiz?
Yes.
Okay, we have 9 yes, the motion carries.
Okay. Move on to action item 5B, Madam Clerk.
B is an ordinance introduced by City Manager Dr. Robert Perez, amending the district map referred to and made a part of the zoning ordinances by Section 1850050 of the Topeka Municipal Code in order to amend the planned unit development at the southeast corner of Northwest Tyler Street and Northwest Lyman Road, known as the Shorey Estates Subdivision, from PUD Planned Unit Development, M2 Multiple Family Daycare Use Only, and R1 Single Family Open Space Use Only to PUD Planned Unit Development, R2 Single Family Residential Uses.
Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the governing body. Dan Warner, Planning Division Director, will lead us to this item.
Thank you, City Manager. So the name of this existing PUD is North Topeka Townhomes, and this is amendment number 4. That name applied to something that happened a long time ago. The current development of that neighborhood is single-family dwellings. So the purpose of this amendment is to allow development of additional single-family dwellings on the remaining vacant property within that neighborhood. The applicant is Habitat for Humanity. They plan to create up to 23 new residential lots and intend to build affordable owner-occupied housing. The applicant held a very well-attended neighborhood information meeting. There were many questions that were addressed by either the applicant or staff or the applicant's consultant at that meeting. The notes are attached to your packet. A couple people also came to the Planning Commission meeting and voiced some similar issues. I would say the main issue was the size of the proposed new lots. I'll say that they are consistent with the R2 standards. It's the same standards we have for R2 zoning anywhere else in town. Those lots are consistent with the R2 zoning. Planning Commission considered this item and recommended approval at their October meeting, unanimously recommended approval. Staff recommends approval as well. Be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Dan? This issue also requires a reading for ex parte communication. So before proceeding with the vote, each member of the governing body who is engaged in ex parte communication with any individual either in favor of or against the matter being considered, must state that the communication occurred and indicate that even in light of having engaged in the communication, they were able to fairly, objectively, and impartially consider the measure based only upon the evidence provided on the record. The record includes the Planning Commission minutes, the staff report and its attachments, the public comments made during the Planning Commission hearing, and similar relevant information related to the matter. So are there any ex parte communications to bring forth? Okay, seeing none, we can proceed with the vote. Again, the voting options are to 1, approve the Planning Commission's recommendation, reject or amend the Planning Commission's recommendation, or remand back to the Planning Commission by the governing body. Is there a motion on this issue? Councilwoman Hiller.
I just wanted to say a word or two. This location is close to my heart with the old Northland Manor there. And I think Habitat does wonderful work, and I'm excited to see the development. Also considering that the Kmart North, just north of there, is going to be a wonderful new education hub. It's just really great timing and a great project, so I'm supportive.
Okay. Is there a motion from the governing body? Motion to approve by Councilman Dobler. Councilman Dobler. Whew. Yeah. And second by Councilman Duncan. We're ready to vote. Sorry about that, Neil.
Councilmember
It's a
Ortiz.
good thing, hey.
Oh, she's voted.
Yes.
Okay, we have 9 yes, the motion carries.
Okay, we'll move on now to item 5C. Madam Clerk.
C is acceptance of land dedications in the final plat for Misty Harbor Estates Subdivision Number 6, located halfway between Southwest Gage and Southwest Burlingame, approximately 1/4 mile north of Southwest 45th Street, Southwest 42nd Street, and Southwest 41st Street, currently terminate into the property's west boundary and being extended as part of the subdivision plat.
Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the governing body. Dan Warner, Planning Division Director, will lead us through this item.
Mayor, governing body, this property is approximately 30 acres, and I believe represents the last phase of the Misty Harbor Estates development. So this is number 6. The subdivision plat allows for the development of 72 residential lots, and it will be built in 3 phases. The applicant held a neighborhood information meeting and answered questions about the development. Planning Commission unanimously approved the subdivision plat at their October meeting. The governing body's role in this process is to decide whether or not to accept the dedication of easements and rights-of-way. With that, I'll be happy to try to answer any questions.
Okay. Any questions for Dan? Okay. Seeing none, is there a motion to consider from the body? Motion to approve by Councilman Duncan, second by Deputy Mayor Kell. We're ready to vote.
Councilmember Ortiz. Councilmember Ortiz.
Yes.
Thank you. All right, we have 9 yes, the motion carries.
Okay, we'll move to action item 5D. Madam Clerk.
D is an ordinance introduced by City Manager Dr. Robert Perez, annexing land to the City of Topeka, Kansas in accordance with KSA 12-520, halfway between Southwest Gage and Southwest Burlingame, approximately 1/4 mile north of Southwest 45th Street.
Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the governing body. Dan Warner, Planning Division Director, will lead us through this item.
Thank you, City Manager. Mayor, governing body, last item from planning. So this proposal is to annex the previous subdivision that was discussed. A little bit about annexation here. So the property lies within Tier 2 of the city's urban growth area. Tier 2 areas are ready for annexation because the full suite of urban services are available. So for instance, in the case of this subdivision, sewer and water service are available with the existing development to the west and to the south. So while not required by state law, the Planning Commission considered this annexation at their October meeting. The PC's role in this process is set by the Land Use and Growth Management Plan. They make a determination if the annexation is consistent with the comprehensive plan. They made that determination. Properties contiguous with the city boundary, the owner has consented to annexation. The governing body can approve annexations of this type by adopting an ordinance. Be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Dan? Okay. Seeing none, is there a motion from the body? Motion to approve by Councilman Dobler, second by Councilman Duncan. We're ready to vote.
Councilmember Ortiz?
Yes, please.
Okay, we have 9 yes, the motion carries.
Thank you. And we'll move to action item 5E. Madam Clerk.
E is authorizing a public hearing date of December 9, 2025 for the purpose of hearing and answering objections of taxpayers relating to the proposed amendments to the 2025 operating budget.
Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the governing body. Josh McInerney, Budget and Finance Division Director, will lead us through this item.
Thank you, City Manager. Tonight is just setting a public hearing date for our annual budget amendments. This is a typical practice we have every year. I attached in the agenda packet what funds we would be amending, but we'll go over more of that on the December 9th public hearing date, and then it would be set for tentative action on December 16th.
Okay. Any questions for Josh? Just setting the hearing date. So is there a motion from the body? Motion by Councilman Duncan, second by Councilwoman Hiller. We're ready to vote.
Councilmember Hiller? I'm sorry, Ortiz?
Yes.
Thank you. Councilmember Duncan? All right, we have 9 yes, the motion carries.
Okay. That's all of our action items. We'll move now on the agenda to non-action items. Madam Clerk.
A is discussion regarding the 2026 City of Topeka legislative agenda.
Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the governing body. Braxton Copley, Deputy City Manager, will lead us through this item. We would also call upon Councilman or Mayor-elect Duncan as the Policy and Finance Committee Chairperson to also provide comment if necessary.
Thank you. Who's going to start first?
I'll defer to the Deputy Mayor. All right, so this is in front of you. I'm going to go through it very quickly, but it's very similar to last year with a couple small changes. So we'll just go through the items. Home rule, consistent with our idea that, we have constitutional home rule in Kansas, and we'd like the state legislature to continue to respect that and continue to give us local control. Under our finance and taxation, we've decided to keep in concerns with business competition, government competition legislation. We expect that to come back this year in some form or fashion, which would be blocking cities the ability to do certain things if they competed with businesses. The second part of that is regards to sales tax. It's reminding the legislature that they continue to offer up sales tax exemptions to entities across the state. In fact, there was a study done last year that said there are so many sales tax exemptions on the books approved by the state of Kansas that it now totals about $8.5 billion per year in lost revenue to the state of Kansas. If you add the percentage of what that would mean to cities, that's several billion of that would be redistributed back to the cities. Now, some of those sales tax exemptions are good and needed and necessary. Others they haven't reviewed in years. This was in our legislative packet last year. We did add that we would like the state to consider, should limit their sales tax exemptions and start to consider sunsets anytime they approve an exemption, so that in 5 or 10 year period, they could actually go back, review that exemption, and decide if it should still be on the books. 3, unfunded mandates. We don't like those. 4, we continue to, hopefully, as the city of Topeka, be a leader in getting the state to take a look at the issues and concerns with the valuation system as it relates to property taxes. As we work to lower our mill levy, there's some changes at the state level that need to be done with the valuation system. Since we have zero control over how properties are valued, that all falls within the state. And 5, another change, we continue to have the revenue neutral process in there. But we are asking now, and there's some movement on this in the legislature, that they would consider legislation that would allow revenue neutral, which right now is a flat rate, to include things either, to include an index. So it should include inflation or the consumer price index or other applicable metrics. So in other words, what that would mean is if inflation was 2% and we stayed revenue neutral, that would mean we could at least capture 2%. So if valuations were up, say 5%, we're still saving the taxpayers that 3%. So that's something that's been kicked around, and so we've added that this year as something we would support as a city. Under public safety and welfare, we continue to support housing initiatives, not in 2 levels, giving cities more tools to help increase the housing stock, and also allowing cities to do certain inspections, particularly as it relates to public funds, not private funds. But if you're going to take government money, you got to make sure that you're maintaining those properties, and there's some state laws that limit our ability to regulate that. We continue to ask the state to support mental health initiatives. 3, we continue to support some form of Medicaid expansion. 4, we continue to ask the state to support legislation that would support homelessness services in the capital city and other areas. Number 5 relates to firefighter helmet cameras, an issue with public safety if they go into a situation where someone's in a different state of distress, not seeing those individuals as a protection under their rights, those individuals' rights. Minimum wage is still in there. That was something Councilwoman Valdivia-Alcala had put in several years ago about supporting an increase in minimum wage. 6, law enforcement age requirements. We've asked them to consider lowering that by a year so that individuals could enter the academy before they turn 21, thereby they'd be turning 21 upon graduation. And then last part of it, community and economic development. We continue to ask the state to support broadband development. We also continue to ask them for support as it relates to our bus services with the MTAA. Number 3, we continue to ask for support with local government employment grants. And the last one is brand new, and it relates to rights of way. We oppose any efforts which would erode a city's ability to control the franchise utility placements of its facilities in the city's right-of-way. There are several efforts right now by some utility companies to essentially ask us to pay for relocations, which we currently don't pay for. That would be very costly, and also give them some more ability to do some work in the right-of-way, taking away our ability to monitor those. So that's a very quick recap of what we've put forward this year as our legislative agenda, and so we present that tonight for discussion, consideration, changes, alterations, and then get it back in front of you in December for approval before the legislative session starts. So I'm sure I've left something out, but anyone can add anything else, but there's the quick rundown.
Deputy City Manager.
Mayor-elect did a great job summarizing. There was a discussion item at the Policy and Finance Committee for consideration by the larger body related to medical marijuana. The committee did not take action on that. It was simply brought up as a potential discussion item when this item came in front of the full governing body.
Any questions, any additions? Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There's been an issue that's kind of been something for me that's been a major issue, and I've just seen it lately just kind of be blowing up. And that's crimes against children, mainly sexual crimes. We need to try to get the state to really start hammering down on this type of stuff. People are getting slapped on the wrist for these things. This is a very, very traumatic and lifelong issue for the victims. And to have someone, you know, I've seen it by working in the Department of Corrections, working at DCF, that you can victimize a child for 3, 4, or 5 years and get probation. And I don't think the state's doing enough. I don't think the country's doing enough. And right now, it seems like every single day, I see a news story about a person in a position of power using that power against children. And it's something that we, I think, being one of the large communities in Kansas, need to step up, because I think when it comes from someone that's lived in some smaller towns in Kansas, when I was going to college, lived in Highland, lived in Hiawatha, coached at Horton, that stuff gets swept under the rug. They want it out of the news as quickly as possible in those small towns. And we need to have it where it's across the board on the state, some issue that is taken care of very seriously, and maybe I would love to see a minimum maximum minimum that someone has to serve for these crimes, not be able to plead out certain things. This is, to me, like I said, and it seems like it's a more and more ongoing issue the more you watch the news. And it's something, like I said, as a larger city in Kansas, I think we need to take the forefront in this. And, you know, we've had it happen here. It's been in the news here. We've seen what it does to our youth. Schools, churches, daycares, those are supposed to be places of trust. And as parents, we're supposed to trust those places, and as the children go there, they're definitely supposed to trust those people. So I would love to see something on our agenda that brings that to the state level to try to get these crimes with harsher punishments and get these people off the street. And for a long time, because like I said, this is a crime that victims live with the rest of their lives. And we can't turn a blind eye to it anymore. And as the third largest, fourth largest city in Kansas, I think we need to step up and make this one of our priorities. Thank you.
Councilman Miller.
Thank you, Mayor. Excuse my voice, everybody. Ed is in the middle of coaching season for basketball, and I do a whole lot of yelling at practice, so it takes a while for my voice to adjust to the season. Councilmember Kell, I appreciate what you just said, and you are not wrong. And there is a vast there's a vast amount of people across this country who are all of a sudden starting to minimize that crime for whatever reason. I think I know a lot of the reasons why they minimize it, but that's not for us to discuss today. So we will move on from that, and I hope that we can discuss that at a later date as well. I wanted to touch base real quick on what Assistant City Manager Copley just mentioned. I was the one who brought up the idea about medical marijuana and Topeka taking a charge and then leading it, having it be a part of our legislative agenda. And the reason I say that is because I think about the $275 million on average a year that brings in for the state of Colorado. On average, they've had 400 plus some years, and the only year that they did anything less than 100 was the very first year that they did it. We have so many places that could use that tax revenue. And I know that there's some public thought about what that would look like, and that discussion can be had. But to sit here and say that we couldn't use that tax revenue from some of the same people who talk about how we don't have this, we don't have that, and we're mismanaging this, but because of your personal feelings about how you don't want somebody else to use something, you don't want to support that. I hope that we can change that thought. I hope that we can take the lead soon in trying to get that changed at the state level. I know there's a lot of pushback on that, I get it. But if we have a bunch of time to be mad at some less than 1%, less than half of a 1% of transgender individuals, we should be able to have a conversation about that as well. So that's the reason I brought it up, and I hope that somebody's listening out there. Thank you.
Councilwoman Hiller.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, if I may, because Councilwoman Ortiz raised her hand, and she doesn't have a button to push. Councilwoman Ortiz?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a lot of buttons to push. They just ain't working tonight. I wanted to talk about, I know we mentioned housing in there, and I wanted to talk about our boarded up housing and how we worded it last year. And I'd like to see us put that emphasis back in. Every year after year after year, we go back and we do, and we put that in there. But I think we just need to emphasize the blight and the boarded houses, kind of like how we did last year. Braxton?
It would have been 2 years ago, Councilwoman. I think
It was just,
Yeah, I think that language got pulled out last year at the request or suggestion of our lobbyist at the time. But we have a new lobbyist, so I think it was 2 years ago. But I remember that language. It was about giving us some more ability to deal with the vacant properties and abandoned and blighted stuff. We could go back and look at that. I don't think there was an objection to that language. I think we just took it out because the lobbyist at the time said take it out. We did, and I'm happy to have that ready by the next meeting to when we approve it to discuss it with everybody.
I think if we just put a blanket on housing that doesn't really put an emphasis on it, and I'd like to make sure that we do that, especially with all the homeless and all the issues that we're having, and even just in our area, so, thank you.
I'll dig it up for you. Yep.
Deputy City Manager, do you have some comment on that?
Yeah, city manager pointed out the lines 46 to 48 appear to address that issue. Specifically says enforcement of equitable interest and giving cities additional tools to deal with vacant and abandoned housing in order to decrease blight in neighborhoods and return houses to productive use. Was that, Councilmember Ortiz, was that the language you were thinking of?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Hiller?
Thank you, Mayor. Overall, I really like this list, and I particularly like the language about revenue neutral. I personally would just as soon go back to the mill levy, discussion in terms of annual for tax lids, but what I see in there is at least a start. I really had a couple things just to add too. On the property valuation item that's there, I wanted to suggest adding a phrase in there, asking the legislature to look at the practice of zeroing out the value of structures that have been vacant for a while. I think that has really hurt us because when it drops the incentive for the owners to activate or sell because a building that was valued at $100,000, so the taxes were $2,000 or whatever a year, all of a sudden gets zeroed out, and the property taxes are only on the value of the land. I don't know if people realize that's what's happened, but all of a sudden their tax bill disappears. And so then if they don't take care of it, we may mow it and secure it and all that kind of stuff, but having that tax value, if the building can still be rehabbed, if there's a way that the state, I don't know whether that's in the appraisal manual actually or the state law, but if we could keep those tax values up, if the structure is rehabbable, I think it would really help us move these vacant properties. So I think also if the appraisal methods do that, it can help get us out of the business of having to try and inventory them and do as much work as we're trying to figure out ourselves to convince those properties to move. We have learned that when things are on people's taxes, they're more likely to pay them than otherwise. So just wanted to suggest that if it's possible. We've gotten, another thing to consider would be whether either on our own or with the state, we could establish more of a standard payment in lieu of taxes for properties that are just vacant, because it is costing us tax money to keep an eye on them with police and fire and so on. So it's just a thought for some sort of, something standard, but I put some notes on it. I submitted to city manager so they can look at the detail on it. On housing, I like the extra examples that are in there. I really think that we, for instance, have come up with some, if the government's already supposed to do the inspections annually on on properties that have government subsidy in the rents, in the long run, we didn't talk about it much when this all got going, but I don't see us duplicating that. And we have our own affirmative program, like with fire and property maintenance, reaching out to all multifamily units over 8 units, and to do our best to make those contacts and make sure that we're not inspecting every unit in town, but we're inspecting the ones where there is some challenge or some problems. So I have also learned that there is a responsibility on the part of those government units to report that they have done the inspections, and they have documentation for how many units passed and how many didn't. So if we can get on that and maybe monitor it better ourselves, but not offer to duplicate it, we could be in a much stronger position sooner. I saw in the minutes that the idea of the medical cannabis was brought up. We've been talking about, apparently every state around us has now legalized it. And so we've got people traveling and spending their money elsewhere. It occurred to me that not only would that be a source of revenue for the state, but also we've been talking about where to get funds for our homeless population or persons who are in crisis with mental health or substance abuse. And if part of the revenue from that legalization could go directly to local governments to then contract out to assist with those services, that could be a win-win for us. Related to that, we had a suggestion from Henry McClure the other day, a couple weeks ago, suggesting that, again, for those same purposes, homelessness, affordable housing, mental health services, crisis services, substance abuse, that perhaps the liquor tax could be increased. I think if we're suggesting that the state help us more with some of these really pressing local needs, being able to suggest a source is possible, and I thought that his argument was pretty good on that idea. The fire, obviously I probably don't know the background on the firefighter helmet camera issue. Now I guess it's a carryover from something specific that got brought up, but if we're really talking about all public safety, not just firefighters, and we're talking about being able to use drones, I know it's been a very contentious issue in the past, but if the issues of how we handle drones and video are really what's at stake, I certainly support us looking into that further. I know there's a delicate balance between public safety and intruding on privacy, but we've got some tools that we didn't used to have. And last but not least, this was not on the list, and Spencer says it's not worth bringing up, but the election yard signs has always troubled me. We had a very strong policy that we did enforce here in the city of Topeka, that yard signs for elections or for anything needed to be with the property owner's permission, and the election signs needed to be up in somebody's yard. And when the state overruled that and said, oh no, it can be any right-of-way anywhere, with or without permission of that adjacent property owner, then what we saw, for instance, in the primary and local election just this year is almost out of control for us. Once the election signs pop up, then everybody who wants to wash cars or paint houses or do garage sales or whatever pops their signs, and we had signs everywhere all over town. And I think it's because people don't know, and when they see the campaign signs up, they think, well, it must be okay. Again, I made a comment last week that I was really pleased to see how Public Works, I guess, partnered as well with the planning folks and went ahead and yanked all the et cetera signs at the same time that everybody was pulling their election signs this time, and Topeka looks much better right now. maybe it's not worth it to bring it up, but I think it's fair to ask to have that go back to home rule instead of state law. That's it.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. To address Councilwoman Heller, increasing liquor tax to me is a no-go for the simple fact of the majority of our alcohol sales in the state of Kansas are mom and pop businesses. And so to put more burden onto those mom and pop businesses is something I don't think I could agree with. Then on to Councilman Miller. I definitely see the tax benefits of medical marijuana. To me, you got sales tax, job creation with dispensaries, with farms, all that, great. To me, it's more of a chronic pain issue for people.
Yeah.
I always heard people, pro athletes, oh, why can't I smoke? Why can't I smoke? And then finally, one person came up and said, if I could smoke this and pretty much have very, very little side effect to me, or take this pill that kills my liver, or take this pill that kills my heart, which one's a better choice? And to me, that was an amazing argument that I heard. I have family members that deal with chronic pain all the time that is called amplified pain syndrome. It's in essence like the phantom limb thing. It's where you have pain in your body, but there's no explanation for that pain. So I see the benefit of that, but I see it more from the medical side of things rather than the tax side of things, especially when you see all these medical ads that, oh, take this pill, but then there's a 30-second side effect at the end of it, and especially the ones that we don't know long-term what they do. And now this person, you see all those ads, but you also see all the ads of, have you taken this pill? And you may be part of this lawsuit now. So we definitely know the long-term side effects and everything of marijuana. And as it was stated, every state around us has it. People travel, I've seen probably easily 15 to 20 documentaries on the subject matter, the good, the bad. And 40 of the 50 states have medical marijuana. So 80% of our country has medical marijuana. 24 have recreational. I'm not saying let's go as far as recreational. I always like to take things in steps, but I would definitely be in support of looking at medical marijuana and the benefits it has all the way around, just not the tax benefits of something like that. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Anything further?
Anybody else? Blake, anything?
Okay. Well, I just had my 2 cents. I do think that Deputy Mayor brought up, I think, a good topic with regards to child abuse. And I think that I wouldn't wholesale say there's a big boom or an explosion of this. I think it's always existed. It's just that we're more aware of it now. And I think that's important for us to act on that awareness and be committed to protecting those who can't protect themselves, and to include some kind of ask for stronger enforcement and stronger penalties for violators that occur in our state. And if there are those who are identified as sex offenders come into our state, that we do a better job of keeping track of those who are in our state so that we can be aware of the potential danger and be prepared for it. So I think that's something that I would fully support. The medical marijuana, that is a debate that goes back and forth. And when it was first brought up this evening about the tax benefits, that certainly is something to look at, the revenue. But I land on the side of whether or not it's helpful to people who have sustained ongoing pain, and there's no real solution pharmaceutically to relieve them of that pain without taking the chance of injuring yourself with other complications. So I think a serious consideration of medical marijuana is something that I would like to have a long, good discussion on, and make it a part of our effort to try and keep our community safe and give them the resources to make their lives better. So I would agree with those two pieces that came up.
Thank you, Mayor. All right.
All right. So, good discussion. I would like to see Mayor-elect, do you know, have we got an opportunity to coordinate we've done this in the past, our thoughts and ideas for our legislative agenda with the Shawnee County delegation?
Yes, there's a meeting the first week of December that the Shawnee County delegation has, and we are on that agenda to present and it'll be, staff will be there, but along with our new lobbyists, Cale Beam, Emily Beam, so they'll be part of that presentation too. So, they technically don't start until January, but they were at the Policy and Finance Committee meeting. They've had some discussions, so they're engaged in seeing what we're doing, so that they'll be ready to roll once we get to January.
Okay, and maybe I'm overstepping here, but would it be a good idea to encourage members of the governing body to, if they can, attend that?
Yeah, we can send out that information. I don't think it hurts to stop in anytime that day. When we do the presentation, it always looks nice if you're just sitting in the room for those 20 minutes to say, see, we cared enough to show up, several of us, and this isn't just our staff showing up, it's us too, and then, it gives a chance if they take a break to say hi and remind them that we were there, so absolutely.
We've talked about this before, and I know in the past when you've sent out a call to arms, as it were, to call our legislators and so forth for things, it does make a difference, because I've made those calls and I get feedback. And I would hope that we can encourage as much as possible I know the agenda sometimes and timing of the day, especially for people who have full-time jobs and so forth, makes it difficult, but the more we can show up and be physically in the seats and present when that happens, I think goes a long way to our credibility of our ask.
Yeah, I'm sure we can send that out, get that to everyone so they can see the schedule for that day.
Thank you.
It's December 8th, I believe.
December 8th?
Oh. Yep,
And when do we vote on this?
December 2nd.
Okay. It would be helpful if, I don't know what the time frame is after the discussion today, to get a revised copy out so we all can kind of
Well, I'll
be
be
on
honest,
board
two of them
with it.
I know are pretty easy. If people want to consider, I think it'll need to be an amendment next time, some sort of medical marijuana amendment. I have a suggestion on that I can take from the league's policy. Your amendment is easy. I gotta be honest, and I'll ask Councilman Kell to send us I don't know what we would write up as the other. It's not that that's not an important issue, and I agree with everything that was said. Gotta figure out what our specific ask is that we want the legislature to do in that case, besides just say, do better, right? We gotta, so I'll talk to Councilman Raquel and see if there's a specific request we can put into offer as amendment that week. Yep.
Thanks. And I mean, I know that, for instance, mine about the taxes, because this didn't come out until a couple days ago, I haven't had a chance to research it, but I really did feel pretty strongly about the things I brought up,
Yeah.
if they're reasonable to move
Yep.
forward.
I'll get that all put together this week. Yep.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good. Thank you for the discussion. I appreciate it. Okay, we'll move on now to public comment. I'll read them as they came to my office. Sandra Lassiter.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everybody. Just real quickly, I want to take the time to commend some of our public officials, and they are several officers. I don't have their titles as such, but Officer Target, Officer Rozo, and Officer Mulligan, and Officer Belt, and I know they all have titles. And I want to commend them because I saw them personally de-escalate a couple of situations that it was done in that proper manner. Rozo, he deals with mental illness and homeless people, and then the others dealt with some young persons that were having some kind of spiraling down issues, and they did it in such a manner they respected the persons that reported it, the parents, and those around them. In doing so and saying that, Mayor, I know that you're going to be exiting, if the Lord allow you to live, shortly, And I want you to exit with integrity and with just the well wishes of the population of Topeka. And then for our Mayor Duncan-elect to come in, I want you to be able to come in and have the respect of the community and the population as a whole. So there are two issues here tonight that I wanted to address, and that was about a KORA request that was made, a Kansas Open Records Act that was made, and the response that came back was that there was no legal signature on there. So no credibility or credible authority would ever send out a legal document without a signature on there. The absence of the signature said to us, was that an omission, was it an oversight, or was it an intent to avoid accountability, which I hope it was not. So we're going to give this an opportunity to be corrected immediately, and if it was intentional, then that's cowardly and unacceptable. The other piece of that was the citing of a 40-year-old case while disregarding a more recent relevant case, and that is the city of Topeka was named defendant in a federal court where the judge rejected the city's attempt to block public dissemination of body camera footage. And the court cited numerous current authorities or public interests and ordered the city to release the footage. Well, if the city can release the footage of a video cam, which you should be able to, you ought to be able to release the name of the officer that was involved. Our concern here is that we're an honorable community. We want to see things done in an honorable manner. And my suggestion, and I'm praying real hard about this, that is this officer repent because he lied. As we are praying and we're a faith community, Topeka is known for Stone's Folly, known for a spiritual movement, which maybe you may or may not know. But I believe in dreamers, and I believe that there's somebody that's going to give us a dream, it's going to be prophetic, and it's going to reveal the person. Or we may have a whistleblower that reveals the person. But we need to deal with the reality of right and wrong. And we need to deal with the reality of an expert investigator has come in on this particular concern that we have. And that is when that investigator said, I saw that video. I've never seen a person smoked. That this young man literally had smoke coming from him. We want to be better than that, and that is to regard the entire community, respect the community. The community is asking you, City Council, to handle this situation and clean your hands. Thank you so much. God bless you.
Thank you. Carrie Bell.
Good morning, or good afternoon, good evening. Okay, so I would like to start talking about a post my son wrote just right before he died. It says, you can lie to yourself, say it's all better and things will be different now, and forget the past. Anybody or anything can change for a short period of time. But without change, history will repeat itself, and even worse than before. When faced with a better way or situation and chance you can toe in the waters, if you must remember how cold it was when you were pulled out. But be careful not to fall back in and lose what you've been graced with, because there isn't always someone there to pull us out. And much more, there's going to always be those who stand at the edge with a smile on their face as the edges close on around you. Okay. So I was told that I could not have the officer's name. I cannot have the information on the paperwork. So what are the chances of me getting the paperwork with everything blacked out? Every name blacked out. All right, here we go. Now, the reason why I was denied was because of a 1987 law. Do you know what was out in 1987? It wasn't body cam. Do you know we had bag phones back then? I had one of the first ones in Topeka. Y'all look at me like I came down here from Fort Worth, Texas, because I have a problem. This is my city. Your city, your city, your city, your city. And if there's no problems at that police department, then invite me in. Invite me in, set me down in your office, and explain to me why I'm wrong. And why a lady that I paid $7,000 to got it right. And you all refuse. Every one of you refused to listen to me. What do I have to do? I went and bought a suit last time I came in so I would look spiffy like the rest of you, so you could maybe see where I'm coming from with this. So you're telling me your Topeka Police Department is perfect. There's no problems in the department. You are making your officers that are perfect officers go in there and bring children home to their parents. You're making these few officers screw up your whole police department. Now, I have one more thing to say. I have a son that has epilepsy. He just turned 40 years old. Dylan died 3 years ago. Do you know I have a son now that won't come out of his house? He's being diagnosed with agoraphobia at age 40. And I blame y'all for that. Thank you.
Mr. Henry McClure.
What are you doing? Good evening. Your Honor, it's nice to see you on the Zoom call, Principal of the Day at Topeka West. My grandfather joined the school board in 1925. He never believed in separate but equal, but it wasn't until after Brown versus Board of Education that his voice was able to be heard. He's a patient guy. He hung around. Look at the change he made. So if that's what it takes for me and my 4,111 friends, I'm here. Just like my grandfather. We'll wait it out. See, what happens is you get clean and sober. She's got 3 years longer than me. You start looking at life differently. You can start seeing through you guys. You just see right through the whole thing, and you're all in it together. That's a shame. So it was fun today being the principal of the day. So why don't we just give you a grade card on your way out of town? So let's talk about the debt you've run up. Let's talk about the hotel for a second here real quickly. You had an offer of $750,000, or $7.5 million, $7.3 million, and you didn't even get a counteroffer. I don't know who's running this hotel, but I saw the other day that you've got a budget to lose $1.7 million. And you didn't even counteroffer, what, 7.6 million, whatever the number was. You've had the offer. And then you paid a consultant $554,000? This stinks. This stinks. And then what today, when I saw these kids today, man, I got a couple of hugs from some kids. Like, hey, some guy goes, hey, who's that guy? You know, it was fun. I went to McClure School first, second, third grade, so it was like old home week. First thing that happened was a kid was, they call it a eloper. Dude ran out, man. They had to chase this kid down the street, and I thought, all right, I hope he gets away. No, I didn't. It's a little funny. But I start looking at these kids, and they're telling me about the lunch program. So they get breakfast and lunch provided at McClure School, and I thought about that. And then I started thinking about the AT&T building. And I started thinking about, $9.5 million going to enrich one guy and his family. Are you really putting the money in the right place? The difference is, you don't see them, but there are 4,111 people behind me today. I just got to say it better, stay in it longer. I loved it when Nixon resigned, you know. You don't got Dick Nixon to kick around anymore. Well, I'm not resigning. It's a shame, the state of the state. Man, I had so much fun. I learned so much. I hope the whistleblowers all go to the Department of Labor, to the state. There's so many of them. This is all for real. Man, you hear and see a whole different side of life when you throw your hat in the ring. So the liquor tax thing, it was about,
How much time would you like?
15 seconds.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I won't waste your time. The whole idea was just take the $750,000 out of the general fund and take the $750,000 from parks. That's what it was originally used for. You'll never get any more money out of it. Daddy-O runs the spirit and liquor lobby. So, but just take the money what it was originally used for. Thank you.
We'll move on now to announcements. Start with Councilwoman Hiller.
Clerk? There's no meeting.
Oh, I'm
next
sorry.
week. That's okay. There's
Yeah.
no agenda to go over next week.
Yeah,
There's no
go ahead,
meeting.
Clerk. Good, Madam Clerk, go ahead. Keep an eye on me, Brett.
There's no meeting next week, so no agenda to go over.
Okay. City Manager.
Nothing for me, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay. Councilwoman Hiller.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a preliminary report, but the final count, the final tally of the voting was done on Monday, and everybody did hang in there, but more votes were certified. And I'm eager to look at more numbers, but what that said to me was that, because there were a substantial number of additional votes this time that were certified after the election, that says to me is that the voter, not just the voter registration, but the work that lots and lots of people did, the candidates as well as citizens, to get people to actually get confident and turn out to vote, worked this time. I just want to offer kudos to everyone that made efforts along that way. And again, I'm going to look at the numbers to see some more specifics. Beyond that, just thanks everybody for all and have a great holiday.
Okay, thank you. Councilwoman Ortiz?
I have nothing tonight, Mayor.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Councilman Banks?
Thank you, Mayor. Nothing.
Deputy Mayor?
Speaking of the election results, they were finalized yesterday, and it's official that Michelle Bradbury will be taking over the 7th district seat. So we have a brand new councilperson coming aboard. We only have 3-minute meetings left before we have our changes happening. And I would like to take a little time to recognize 2 people that will be leaving us. First, Mayor Padilla. 8 years ago, we were opponents for this seat in the 5th district, and you ran an amazing campaign, and I couldn't say anything bad about you. And I don't think you said anything bad about me, and it was just a very nice, clean, amicable race, and I got to know you, and it's always nice when opponents can, after the fact, can still work together, talk, and interact with each other. And that 4 years you were in the seat, I felt like I could reach out to you for anything. I told you a couple weeks ago, I'm glad you beat me 8 years ago because I don't think I was ready. And the time I spent learning and being more involved and things like that to when it became my turn and I did win the seat, I feel like that was for the benefit of the city that you won. And I always enjoyed our interactions we had when we were running and now being together, working together. Second, Councilman Neil Dobler. He was the first person to reach out to me and want to sit down. He wanted to get to know me, what I was about, what I stood for, and what I wanted to accomplish. He's a person I learned a lot from. We may not have agreed on every subject, but it was never a personal matter between us, and it was always, it may be a heated discussion, but 5 minutes later, we were back to being colleagues, and everything was forgotten. So to both of you, I just want to say thank you for being great mentors for me, educating me along the way on this job, making me a better council person, making me a better person, and you two have always been that, you're our Yoda up here, Councilman Dobler. You always seem to, we'll have an hour-long discussion on something, and you sum it up in 2 minutes at the very end, so that will be greatly missed. And Mayor, I think having that other person for the 5th District, as you were a 5th District person and still live in the 5th District, having kind of that combo for the 5th District, it was nice, and having that person to mentor me for when I transitioned into the seat was great to have. So thank you, both of you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Very gracious of you. Thank you. Did Marcus leave?
Yes.
Okay. Councilman Dover.
I have nothing,
AKA Yoda.
Yeah. Nothing. Not much.
Mayor-elect Spencer Duncan.
Thank you, Mayor. 2 quick things. First is I just want to thank staff. Some of you may know down on Lime Street, we have the Bread Basket Food Pantry. They had a fire last week, possibly arson, but they give out food 3 times a week, and there's a lot of people who depend on them. Staff has worked to get them what they can functional to this point, and as they work through their issues, but so they can actually continue service to make sure that people get what they need. So I just want to thank staff for answering my questions on that and working with them to make sure that they can continue to serve the community down there. And I know staff, everyone will keep working with them. The second thing is we had a land bank meeting today, and we need to reappoint some individuals next year. And one of the representatives that serves on that needs to be from an NIA. And so for those of you who have NIAs, if you could help us spread the word to those NIAs that we are looking for somebody who might be interested in serving on the land bank from an NIA, that they just need to fill out the application online. They can contact myself, they can contact planning staff, or the mayor's office, but we're looking for that person. We just need to get the words out to the NIAs for interested people. So just wanted you folks who have NIAs, any help you can give us to let them know we're looking would be much appreciated. So thank you, Mayor, and again, as Councilman Hiller said, happy Thanksgiving to everybody next week.
Councilwoman Hofer, congratulations.
Thank you. I have 2 things tonight. For those of you that don't get in my business area very often, the first 2 girder beams have been set for the Polk-Quincy Viaduct. So that's a big step, because all I've seen is concrete up till now. Now we're moving to the next phase, so that's a good thing. And Zoo Lights opens this Friday. The garland cutting is at 4:40, and it opens to the public at 5 p.m. So November 21st to, I can't remember, I believe it's December 30th. You have about a month. And one thing that they've added this year, the igloos that you can rent, 3 of them have been staged by 3 different real estate companies. So they're a little fancier than they've been in the past. So if you have the inclination and want to, renting an igloo is a good thing, it helps the zoo, and it's going to be a new experience. That's all.
Thank you, ma'am. I just want to add some comments were made earlier about being invited to be principal of the day, along with a lot of other people. I just want to, by name, thank Principal Kelly Hoffman over at French Middle School. It was really a joy to spend some time with them. I've been to that school 2 or 3 times. I'm impressed because those kids, they have a Save the City event every year. And I know Mayor-elect has been there several times. And it's always fun to interact with the youth there and hear their ideas about how the city should be run and what we can do with different properties around the city. So it's very encouraging. And something that was brought up during the comments was that the kids talk about staying here in Topeka because they like it. They like what they see the changes, and they don't talk about getting an education and moving off somewhere. They want to get an education if they have to go somewhere to get that, but they bring it back here to Topeka. They want to be here in Topeka. So that's extremely encouraging. So I want to thank Principal Hoffman for her courtesy and for the staff who took the time to walk us around and give us a chance to visit with the student council, which was really a lot of fun. They asked a lot of good questions. So that's all I have. There's no need for any executive list sessions this evening, and no further business before this body. This meeting is adjourned.